All right, with its Startup America initiative, the White House is promoting the idea that new jobs will come from innovative companies, the very companies we cover here at Bloomberg West. But will disruptive innovation end up replacing more jobs than it creates? To talk about this topic, we're joined by Paul Saffo, Director of Foresight at Discern Analytics. Glad you're here. The jobs thing is so important to this country, and it's so interesting in the world of technology. Do jobs in tech take away from jobs in low tech?
Well, you know, it's been axiomatic for the last decade that what happens is that technology creates more jobs than it destroys, but the problem has been that the new jobs require different skills than the old jobs.
Well, here's an example. You know, Amazon hiring 1,500 people, that sounds great, but most of those people are going to work in warehouses. Is that technology giving us great new jobs?
Well, technology gives us great new jobs in other ways. Think about the independent sellers who use the Amazon marketplace to sell in a way they couldn't do before. Or take Salesforce. They only have 5,000 employees.
Right across the street, many of them.
Right across the street. But they enable over 500 independent contractors who are probably hiring about 35,000 people. So we have to think about it as an employment ecology. In the old days, companies hired employees. Today, what companies do is they create an ecology that allows other small companies to grow up around that and make money.
I used to write about economics for a magazine called The Industry Standard. We all got laid off. A lot of jobs went away that day. I remember it vividly. But one of the things that struck me then, it strikes me still, is that the duration of those jobs is a lot shorter, that people don't keep the jobs for as long. Not only do they not go to work for Ford for 20, 30 years, they have a job for 18 months and then they're without a job for a while. And it seems that that kind of disruption is also very painful. It's a charming notion that technology adds jobs, but short-term jobs, is that a good thing?
You know, revolutions are difficult to live through, and this is truly a moment of Schumpeterian creative destruction.
Schumpeterian?
Joseph
Really?
Schumpeter, I think, is the patron saint of this, not Maynard Keynes. The guy who said that new technology comes in, blows up the old order, creates a new niche that grows like crazy, and then gets wiped out. That's the new normal here.
Sure. But in terms of employment, it's a disruptive type of employment. It's not the kind of employment we're used to. It's not the kind of employment that our monthly and weekly job statistics really tell the story of.
But this is where Silicon Valley is a key indicator for the rest of the country, because this is exactly the kind of employment people in Silicon Valley are used to. They're used to having a job for about the length of one cycle of Moore's Law, 18 months, maybe two, 24, 2 years or so. And then they go.
Moore's Law says that the speed of a semiconductor doubles every 18 to 24 months, and the cost is cut in half.
Right, and every time you double it, the game changes.
So Google is kind of very publicly went out to hire 6,000 people. They got tens of thousands of applicants for those jobs. Is that a sign that this is a future employment center, or that employment in this sector is so crummy?
Well, it's a sign that there's a lot more demand for engineers in Silicon Valley than we have engineers right now. In the last 18 months...
But isn't it the opposite? If you've got more applicants than jobs, there are more applicants than jobs?
Well, it's a question of qualified applicants. Right. That there are so many companies looking for engineers right now that, as you know, along Highway 101, there are multiple billboards saying, come work at Zynga. Come work here, come work there.
So in terms of having those jobs, do we have... this is not news here. You're right. We've talked about this in Silicon Valley for decades. But do we have the ability to take America's workforce, Northern California's workforce, take those people who are losing jobs in old sectors and get them into new sectors? Or is what we're seeing in the unemployment world out with the old, literally old, and in with the new?
Well, let's make it real personal. Someone who has lost their job at, say, Walmart, is not going to be retrained to be a programmer at Google.
Right.
However, the niches, the ecologies created by Google Marketplace or by Facebook or by Salesforce, that allows that person to take their expertise in retail and be entrepreneurial and create a new job.
What do you mean, the ecologies?
So think about, you've got the example of Salesforce. It only has 5,000 employees, but there are probably 35,000 people working at other companies selling what Salesforce does.
Right.
Facebook, think of all the people who have jobs because of Facebook. Or, the example from the last bubble, eBay, that eBay had a small number of employees, but it had a large number of power sellers. At one time, as many as Walmart had employees. You know, in the old days, we'd have called those employees. These days, they're independent contractors. So you don't have to be a programmer to get a job because of technology revolutions.
Well, let me ask you this, and really, last question here. Is the time that it takes, if starting these companies, if encouraging these startups, Facebook, Google, Salesforce, whatever, leads eventually to an ecology around them, has the time been compressed or expanded to get that ecology growing?
I think it's compressing in some ways. Social media is compressed. Take Apple. Apple has 50,000 employees. They opened their app store, barely 2 years ago, 2008. Right. They have over 50,000 app developers on the outside. So that's creating lots of jobs.
So launching the app store creates app developer jobs all over the world.
Right.
Great. Paul Saffo, really glad you can join us. This employment story is so fascinating, especially this time in this country. Really
My
appreciate
pleasure.
it. Thanks.